giving it to my daughter is a burden. It places a burden on her about what to do with it when she has it and when she faces eternity. And I'm struggling with
What
this.
is it property or is it funds?
Well, I mean, in certain cases, I collect antiques.
Oh.
And so I've got, my place looks like a museum.
I see.
And in other cases, I've got, for instance, a clock that my mother's mother was given,
Wow.
and it's over 100 years now. And I know she's not going to want it. And so, but the pictures are the ones that really bother me, the personal pictures, pictures of myself, my brother, and so forth. And I looked at it as a business opportunity before, saying that we would store them. But for what? You know, it's you bring them here, we'll store them for you, and if your children or children's children want to see them, they can completely access them. But nobody's going to really want them. Doesn't make any sense.
After a certain number of generations, the familial connection disappears.
And it's even, I think it's a shorter span today than ever before. And so, given that criteria, you have these pictures. Everybody in this temple has got some pictures of their parents, maybe grandparents, so forth and so on. What's going to happen to them?
In 50 years, no one's going to really care.
And that's just it. It's happening now. It's not even 50 years. I mean, you know.
I think what you might want to consider doing. Does your daughter visit you sometimes?
Oh, we see them every week. I see them every weekend.
Yeah, at some point, just begin the process of saying to her, "What do you want?" And just know that whatever you don't take, I may sell or give away.
Well, we've already had this discussion.
Okay.
And so her reaction is, I'm guessing, is I don't want to talk about it, to face the reality. And so I don't push it too hard. We've discussed it and, about the idea of passing along or what would you take or blah, 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 blah. But it's the pictures that bother me more than anything else. Because if I make some type of collection, is she ever going to look at them? Are my grandkids ever going to look at them? Maybe once.
Right. Who knows?
But then they're going to wind up in the garbage.
At some point.
And that's what I'm finding the hardest to come to terms about. And it's not the antiques. I mean, I've got antiques that are 200-300 years old. But it's not that.
It's the family.
It's the family issues that it really comes down to. And
if you opened up a photograph album and you were sitting with your daughter, can she identify who's who?
yeah,
This is your mother, and this is your
Yeah.
grandmother. She can identify who's your mother.
yeah. But again, up to a certain point, she met my mother as an older woman. And my mother over the years has changed, just like everybody gets older and they change. And physically. And some people more than others. And so I had a brother who died in Vietnam.
Sorry.
Would she recognize the picture of my brothers? And I've got a picture of my grandfather, my mother's father, from the 1880s or so. She'd look at this thing.
It just occurred to me that the volume of pictures may be
so I can't imagine what she can do with them. And a lot of them today are electronic, so you can put the leads and it's all gone. You know, most of them aren't physical.
Yeah, you
It's,
know.
it's a conundrum that I don't know a lot of people face
Well,
or
you're right.
are
I
interested.
would imagine a lot of people face it, but they don't, like, we don't talk to them. Right? It's not something that people, get but just so, I want to encourage you all to sing, just so you can help me along, okay? So, with that being said, I think we're about to go live. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. It's so good to see you who are here in the sanctuary tonight. It's good to see you, I'm trying to think, there we are. It's good to see you who are joining us online tonight. And please sit back and relax and enjoy our community, our feeling of community that we're trying to engender here, even though we are both online and we are here in person. For those who are joining us online, you see in the video description, I think, a couple of little video links. One is a link to our prayer book, the Mishkan Tefillah, which, of course, if you're here in the sanctuary, you have Mishkan Tefillah. You also have a video link for, or I should say a link for our program for tonight, in which is there are some announcements and our Kaddish list. And also, there's also a link there for our closing song that we'll have later on. So you all here tonight, I think, have a copy of that closing song, so you don't have to worry about that. But for now, just sit back and relax and be with one another as we welcome Shabbat into our community and into our hearts. We start with a nigun, melody without words, just to sort of bring us to this place. This might be a melody. I hope that you know we've done it before, so please join one another in this nigun for Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom. This is a day intended to be a day of rest. But even more than that, this is a day that we're supposed to have this rest to help sustain us and to help make us a community, to help make us grow as individuals. So we ask God to help us make this day worthy to receive all of its benefit. We ask God to help make us worthy that it may refine our soul, and it may even strengthen our resolve to accomplish all the things that we have to do in life. It is my prayer for us and for everyone here, for everyone with us online as well, and for everyone really in our community in the world. I hope that our sincerity and our integrity for doing good things in the world are strengthened in the year ahead. We begin with Ki Esh Merah Shabbat, which is on page 129 in the prayer books. Ki Esh Merah Shabbat. And using that same melody before, that melody was written and composed by Dan Nichols. Ooh, 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 ooh. Ki Esh Merah Shabbat El Yishmereini Oti Le'ol Me'ad Beino Uveini We continue as a community on page 126. We offer this prayer together. I begin with a prayer of gratitude for all that is holy in my life. God needs no words, no English or Hebrew, no semantics, and no services. But I need them. Through prayer, I can sense my inner strength, my inner purpose, my inner joy, my capacity to love. As I reach upward in prayer, I sense these qualities in my Creator. To love God is to love each other, to work to make our lives better. To love God is to love the world God created and to work to perfect it. To love God is to love dreams of peace and joy that illumine all of us and to bring that vision to light. We continue on page 121. O source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness, help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and our lives. Bless all who enter this sanctuary in need, all who bring the offerings of their hearts. May our worship lead us to acts of kindness, peace, and love. May this light that we light tonight illumine all of our lives so that we can see by our light and lead others to see by our light as well. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. We thank God, and we thank God for, and we prepare for this precious day of Shabbat. We ask God to allow this day, to allow us to see more clearly, to hear our heart's desires plainly, to hear the hearts of the desires of those around us plainly too, so that we can respond to their needs and to what they ask of us. We ask God to allow us to offer the best that is in ourselves, to help heal our planet, and to make use of all of its resources in wise and thoughtful ways. We continue on page 130 with L'chu Niranena. L'chu niranena l'Adonai, naria letzur ishenu, nekadma fanav betoda, bizmirot naria lo, nekadma fanav betoda, bizmirot nari alo. Ki el gadol Adonai umelech gadol al kol Elohim asher biyado mechkerei aretz vetoafot harim lo. Asher biyado mechkerei aretz vetoafot harim lo. On page 138, Kabbalat Shabbat continues with Lecha Dodi, a prayer that we officially welcome Shabbat. You know, our ancestors envisioned Shabbat as a queen that came every week to consort with her king, to have a union with the people of Israel. The gender references aside, this union of Israel and its day of rest is very important to us because it really means that we can be with one another, we can allow each other to be the people who we need to be and give each other the space in order to grow and to thrive into those people that God intends for us to be. Again, 138 tonight, we're offering verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. And this melody is Leonard Cohen's melody, so it may sound a little familiar to you, so please join in. I think you may know this. Lecha dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabela Shamor v'zachor b'divur echad Hishmianu el hamyuchad Adonai echad u'shemo echad L'shem tiferet v'leitila lecha dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabela lecha dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabela Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha ki hi mekor haberacha merosh mikedem nesucha Sof ma'aseh b'machshavat achila lecha dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabela lecha dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabela Hit oreri kiva orech kumiori uri shir daberi Kevod Adonai alayich nigla lecha dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabela lecha dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabela Bo'i v'shalom ateret ba'ala gam b'simcha u'v'tzohola toch emunei am segula Bo'i chala lecha dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabela lecha dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabela. And finally, for last psalm of Kabbalat Shabbat is on page 140. We'll offer first in English, and then we'll sing a little bit the last part of this, of Psalm 92. So we read together, really, toward the bottom of the page, on page 140. A psalm, a song for Shabbat. It is good to praise Adonai, to sing hymns to your name, O Most High, to proclaim your steadfast love at daybreak, your faithfulness each night, with a 10-stringed harp, with voice and lyre together. You have gladdened me by your deeds, Adonai. I shout for joy at your handiwork. How great are your works, Adonai, how very subtle your designs. A brute cannot know, a fool cannot understand this. The righteous bloom like a date palm. They thrive like a cedar in Lebanon. Planted in the house of Adonai, they flourish in the courts of our God. In old age, they still produce fruit. They are full of sap and freshness, attesting that Adonai is upright, my rock, in whom there is no wrong. Starting at the indented Hebrew paragraph. Tzadik kata hamar yifrach ke'erez balevanon yizkeh shetulim beveit Adonai bechatzrot Eloheinu yafrichu od yenuvun beseva deshenim verananim yehu lehagid ki ashar Adonai Tzuri, tzuri, velo avlatabo. On this day of Shabbat, we are called upon to challenge ourselves and really challenge our doubts, because sometimes we have certainty in our hearts, but we don't really think that we do. But my guess is that each of us has certainty in our hearts, and each one of us knows what's exactly right for at least themselves, if not for others. But on this day, we ask to be helped to enable to overcome the challenges that are presented to us, however they are presented. When our faith wavers in ourselves, let us gain strength from those who came before us, who overcame their difficulties. Let us learn from them. Let us gain strength from those who have nearly succumbed to temptations of wickedness, but finally found a better path. Let us also gain strength from those who have been heartbroken, but somehow found the strength to rebound and find renewal. Dear Shabbat, abide with us and help to safeguard our souls on this day of rest and all days in the week to come. Our Ma'ariv service begins on page 146 with a call to worship with Baruch Hu. We invite the congregation to rise. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Va'ed. At the top of 147, we read together, there is one who sings the song of his own life, finding everything within himself. There is one who leaves the circle of herself and sings the song of her people. There is one whose voice rings with the song of humanity, hoping for the highest perfection. And there is one who rises even higher, uniting with all creatures, with all worlds, filling the universe with song. Nivarech, let us bless. On page 150, we continue that blessing with a blessing, thanking God for the gift of Torah. We read together in English. Everlasting love you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Page 152. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Please be seated. We continue at the top of page 154. Please join one another with Ve'ahavta. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol meodecha v'hayu hadevarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha Veshinantam levanecha vedibarta bam beshiftecha beveitecha uvelechtecha vaderech ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם emet. On page 157, we continue responsively at the middle of the page. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. From bondage in Egypt, we were delivered. At Sinai, we bound ourselves to your way.
Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces.
Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed.
Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea.
On page 158. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar ba'kodesh, nora tehilot, hosei fele, nora tehilot, hosei fele. Malachutecha ra'u v'necha, bokei ayam, לפני משה ומרים, זה אלי, ענו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, לעולם לעולם, לעולם ועד. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל ישראל. On page 160, at the middle, together we offer this prayer for the evening, a time when we seek protection from all the things that could do us harm in the world. We read together at the middle of the page, grant, O God, that we lie down in peace and raise us up, our sovereign, to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your good counsel. For your name's sake, be our help. Shield and shelter us beneath the shadow of your wings. Defend us against enemies, illness, war, famine, and sorrow. Distance us from wrongdoing. For you, God, watch over us and deliver us. For you, God, are gracious and merciful. Guard our going and coming to life and peace evermore. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem. Baruch atah Adonai, hapores sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. These days are days when we desperately look for peace in the world. Sometimes peace is elusive, as we know, whether it's talking to people who are in our own nation or talking at other nations. So I'm reminded on this night of the words of Isaiah, and just to share with this community these words from the second chapter of Isaiah, just seemed the right night to do this. Isaiah writes this: "In the days to come, the mountain of the house of the Eternal shall stand firm above the mountains and tower above all the hills. And all the nations shall stream toward it with joy. Many peoples shall go and say, 'Come, let us go up to the mountain of the Eternal, to the house of the God of Jacob, that there the Eternal may instruct us in divine ways, so that we walk in God's paths. For instruction shall come forth from Zion, the word of the Eternal from Jerusalem.' Thus God will judge among the nations and chasten the many nations. Opponents shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they ever again train for war." In our service, we're about to begin the tefillah, which again we translate as prayer. And the word tefillah can be a pretty a word that is ambiguous. On the one hand, it's the outpouring of our hearts. On another hand, the word comes from an ancient Hebrew root that means self-examination. Both of those things are difficult, because sometimes we don't know the words of prayer and we rely on the prayer book, and sometimes examining ourselves is very difficult as well, as we all might know. And yet that's the task for us is at this time of prayer, is to really look inside and see where we need to change, what we need to change, who are our partners in helping us achieving this change. So as we enter this time of tefillah, this time of prayer, we remember that Isaiah prayed for peace. That was what he perceived he needed in the world in which he lived. So too may we in our lives find that one significant issue, that one significant thing that we're dealing with, and find a solution to that one important matter that irks us sometimes so much and yet propels us to find a solution. We continue with the tefillah that begins on page 164. I invite the community to rise. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi agid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. 166. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, ve'Konei Ha'akol, ve'Zocher Chasdei Avot ve'Imahot, Umevi Geula livnei v'neihem, Lema'an Shemo be'ahava, Melech Ozer u'Moshia u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'Ezrat Sarah. Page 168. Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechaye hakol atah, Rav lehoshia, Mashiv haruach u'morid hagashem, Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechaye hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim verofei cholim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato, Lishenei afar, Michamocha bal gevurot, Umidom melach, Melech meimit umechaye, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman ata lehachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechaye hakol. Page 170. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, ukadoshim b'chol yom yehalelu chasela, Baruch atah Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh. Please be seated. We continue on page 175. You are with us in our prayer, our love, and our doubt, in our longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are the still, clear voice within us. Please join me. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble and pain clouds the mind, we look inward for the answer to our prayers. There may we find you, and there find courage, insight, and endurance. And let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find new strength for your service. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otecha levadecha be'yirah na'avod. Many years ago, Rabbi Mordecai Kaplan wrote this: only that faith which impels us to live in a mutual helpfulness can enable us to overcome the deadly enemies of God and humanity. When he suggests that we can only live by having relationships with one another, he's offering us a challenge in this world, especially today when we're so isolated. We can't even look at everyone's face, you know. We're just separated from one another, whether it's at work, whether it's here in the synagogue, whether it's in school. All these different ways of being or isolating ourselves do have difficulties. They do take a toll on us. And yet, it is our job as human beings to break past that, and even with the isolation, even with the disappointment that we share, that this pandemic seems to be becoming endemic, as people say. We're going to have to just live with it for however long it takes, whatever that means. It is a continuing challenge then to break down other barriers, and despite the fact that we have to put up, germ barriers or virus barriers, we also can think about other ways to make our lives connect with one another. That's the challenge that we face. May we find strength in that aspect of humanity that allows us to reach out to other people, and may we be successful in touching the heart of at least one other person once a week, maybe even twice a week. We now pause for silent prayer, and we'll finish up our tefillah in a few moments after our silent reflection with Oseh Shalom on page 180. Oseh Shalom b'maromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei Tevel. Ose shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei Tevel ve'imru Amen. The Kiddush for Shabbat evening is on page 123. We thank God for the day of rest that we are about to enjoy. May it be the enjoyment of everyone. And we thank God for the fruit of the vine that allows us to celebrate on this night. Page 123. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit. Ki hu yom techila lemikrae kodesh, zecher letziat Mitzrayim. Kivanu v'acharta, v'yotanu kidashta, mikol hamim, v'shabbat kodshecha, be'ahava uveratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat lechayim. Shabbat Shalom. I want to offer just a few remarks on this particular night, as I think they're sort of pertinent. It was Christmas Eve in the year 1914, a cold, icy, and uncomfortable night in World War I Belgium. British machine gunner Bruce Bairnsfather, like most of his fellow infantrymen in the Royal Warwickshire Regiment, was spending that beautiful holiday night shivering in the mud along one of the many European fronts of World War I. He had spent a good part of the last few months fighting the Germans, and now he was crouched in a trench that was 3 feet deep and 3 feet wide, his days and nights marked by an endless cycle of stale biscuits, cigarettes too wet to light, sleeplessness, and fear. It was about 10 o'clock at that night. Bairnsfather hears a noise, and he writes, "I listened, and away across the field, among the dark shadows beyond, I could hear the murmur of voices," or as singer-songwriter John McCutcheon termed it, they heard a most peculiar sound. The gunner turns to his fellow soldier and asks, "Did you hear the Germans kicking up that racket over there?" Well, the Germans were singing Christmas carols as it was Christmas Eve. In the darkness, some of the British soldiers began to sing back, and very soon, the sound of the Silent Night hymn, sung in unison in 2 languages, filled the battlefield. Suddenly, Bairnsfather recalls, "We heard a confused shouting from the other side. We all stopped to listen to the shouting, and the shout came again. The voice was of a German soldier speaking in English with a very strong accent, obviously. He was saying, 'Come over here, come over here.' And one of the British sergeants answered, 'You come halfway, I come halfway.' And then they all came. Soldiers began pouring out of their trenches, and they began to walk toward one another, and then there were handshakes. There were words of kindness. The soldiers traded songs, tobacco, wine. and they joined in a spontaneous holiday party that cold night. Barron's father further writes, here they were, the actual practical soldiers of the German army, and there was not an atom of hate on either side. Another British soldier, John Ferguson, wrote, here we were laughing and chatting to men whom only a few hours before we were trying to kill, and they were trying to kill us, presumably. Many here tonight have heard these tales of the 1914 Christmas Eve unofficial truce, where Germans and Brits halted the madness of war for a few hours. In reality, their so-called truce lasted more than one night. There was more than one impromptu game of soccer over the next few days. One German infantryman described how a British soldier set up a makeshift barber shop and offered the Germans a few cigarettes or charging the Germans a few cigarettes for a haircut. There are even accounts that describe scenes of enemy soldiers helping their opponents collect up the bodies of their dead comrades. According to archival records, such an armistice, ever so brief, was not appreciated either by the German or British officers higher up the chain of command. Neither group of commanders trusted their opponents. Someone has even since discovered a written account by a young Austrian recruit named Adolf Hitler, who objected strenuously to these festivities. Such a fraternally warm truce has never occurred again. Yet in thinking about the cessation of violence and hatred, even one so brief and brotherly, one must be impressed with the humanity that came forward from these avowed enemies. The war literally stopped for a time. Hostilities ceased, and love emanated from the hearts of these combatants. And on this same night, 107 years later, near the cusp of the new year ahead, perhaps we as individuals and we as a nation might also want to consider stopping our hostilities with one another and think about the common humanity that binds us together more than it separates us. Think about the lives we lead with people with whom we disagree. What would happen if we tried to walk across the cold, barren, demilitarized zone between our souls and those of our adversaries and tried to offer each other peace, friendship, kind words, an extended hand, and a compromising attitude? On Shabbat, we are compelled to think about the forging of peace, especially at a time when concord and amity are in short supply. Particularly on this Shabbat, let us especially consider how we can calm the animus that seems to stimulate so many people in our nation, let alone the world, and imagine a time of compromise, of working together to actively breach the buffer that separates us and to come together as a nation, to come together as human beings. Not all Americans know Christmas carols as do our Christian friends. Not all Americans know songs and psalms of peace from our Hebrew tradition. Not all Americans really get the words of peace spoken by the Prophet Muhammad. Indeed, individually, we know precious little of the specific peace traditions all around the world. But those traditions are more common than we might understand. They might be more common than we know. But each of us wants a cessation of over-the-top rhetoric. Each of us needs sanctuary from the violence and hatred that seem to motivate certain Americans. Each of us has the ability and intention to bring our world to a peaceful place. So I ask, let us use these desires to leave the icy, cold battlefields of our political and racial differences and rather find the warmth of the human hearts where we strive to make peace with one another. That would be a holiday season to remember. Let's make it happen. Shabbat Shalom. I now want to invite the community to turn to page 371 in the prayer book, because now it is our time to offer prayers of healing and wholeness. And I would like to offer something first, a message from Cantor Nami. He asked me to make this announcement, or to let people know what was going on in his life, and so this is taking my colleague and offering these words about him, and he's given me permission to say this tonight. While he was in New York recently on a personal matter, he came into close contact with someone whom he later learned had tested positive for COVID. Upon his return to Madison, he immediately took precautions by isolating and testing, and later found out that he had indeed contracted the virus. Thanks to being fully vaccinated and boosted, he's experiencing only mild symptoms, and he's very optimistic that even those will improve very quickly, and they have over the last week and 10 days. Following the guidelines of the CDC, he will be isolating through Shabbat, and following the guidelines of the CDC and our Temple Task Force, he'll be back in the office next week. And I have the Cantors express permission to make these announcements to you tonight. But I think it hits home with us for those whom we know who have contracted the virus. It makes us understand that indeed there are chances that each of us may fall ill and fall prey to its processes. And so one thing I say about that, and that is it's so important to be vaccinated, to be boosted, to wear masks, especially in crowded places, wear masks indoors. One just never knows. If this situation becomes endemic, if it becomes something that is something we simply have to live with, then let us live. As the rabbis have said, that the mitzvot, the commandments, are there to help us live by them and not die by them. And so we are to indeed choose life, and we choose life by doing all these things that help mitigate against illness. There are also other people whom we think about at this time of the healing worship that we do, the healing prayer that we offer. We think about all those in our community and outside of our community who have been affected by the coronavirus. We think about those with mental illness. We think about victims of stalkers and sexual predators. We think about those who have been trafficked as human slaves. We think about victims of violence against anyone due to their skin color, country of origin, sexual orientation or gender identity, their ethnicity or their level of ability. We think about those people who live in cities afflicted by strife and contention, the victims of natural and human-caused disasters. We think about innocent victims of terror around the world, and perhaps like those World War I soldiers I spoke about a while ago, we think about all wounded service personnel serving our country. There might be people in our sanctuary tonight who are thinking of someone who is in need of healing, and if you'd like to offer the name of someone, we invite you to do that now, and we'll add that person's name to our healing list. For those joining us online, too, we think of your loved ones who are ill. We know that with work from families and friendship circles, their pain can be eased, their burdens can be lessened when we all pitch in and help them in the healing process. On page 371, we continue at the middle of the page with Misha Beirach, page 371. Misha Beirach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Le'imotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misheberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. We continue with Aleinu on page 586. I invite the congregation to rise. 586. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד ארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינת עוזו בגובהי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. Please be seated. We continue on page 591 at the top. We read together. May we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding, loved each of us for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech, and may we never lift up our hand but to conquer fear and doubt and despair. Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with the joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace. ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. On page 593. Zecher Tzadik Livracha, may the memory of the righteous always be a blessing. The light of life is a finite flame. Like the Shabbat candles, life is kindled, it burns, it glows, it is radiant with warmth and beauty. But soon it fades. Its substance is consumed, and it is no more. In light we see, in light we are seen. The flames dance, and our life burns down and gutters. There is an end to the flames. We see no more and are no more seen. Yet we do not despair, for we are more than a memory slowly fading into the darkness. With our lives, we give life. Something of us can never die. We move in the eternal cycle of darkness and death, of light and life. On this Shabbat, we remember those who died in the last 4 weeks, the last 30 days approximately, and those whose Yartzeit occurred at this time, the anniversary of their passing. And there may be others whom we remember on this night as well. And so as we now think about those who influenced our lives for good, those who made a difference to us, and who we hope were influenced by our goodness as well, we think about them in all the ways that we all bring humanity to higher places. These are those whom we are remembering on this night. Again, those connected to members of our community who died in the last 30 days. We think of Leah Graff Duckworth, niece of Ginny Graff, cousin of Lynn Ballesta and Stacy Graff. We think of Karen Sessler-Stein, sister of Greg Sessler, and Michael Schwartz, brother of Bob Schwartz. And these are the Yartzeiten that occur at this time. Continuing to remember them in love and fondness, we remember Anatole Beck, Gertrude Benderson, Abraham Blumenfeld, Ruth Suzanne Bohl, David Cohn, Esther Flixer, Sally Garten-Balkin, Beatty Harris, Ann Kaner Roth, Richard M. Katz, Bernice Miller Kaufman, Juliet Cohn, Sue Knudsen, Min Lam, Jean R. Nemshoff, Jack Radwin, Odessa Ring, Leon Rosenkranz, Shirley Rosenkranz, Saul Schwartz, Sadie Sherman Garraway, Nathan Siegel, Benjamin Solganic, and Emma Spahn, all of blessed memory. There may be others in our hearts whom we are remembering on this night, those who might have died recently, longer ago than 30 days, or simply someone whose memory came into our minds. And if you'd like to add your loved one's name to this list, we invite you to do so. Are there other people we should be remembering tonight? Zichronam livracha. May those whom we've mentioned and those whose names reside in our hearts, may their memories always be blessings in our hearts and the hearts and minds of all those who knew and loved them. Testifying to the faith that binds the generation of humanity together, I now invite you to rise. And on page 598, we offer together the words of the mourner's Kaddish. Page 598. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divara chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen, Yehei shemei Rabbah mevarach le'alam ul'almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal, Shemei de kudsha brichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shmaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. May God send peace to all who mourn and comfort you who remember and who are bereaved on this night. And we say amen. Please be seated. Our service is about to conclude, and when it does, we'll just say a quick motzi at the end for people who might be going to have supper or might be going out to have other kinds of meals tonight. I don't know. But before we do all of that, we have a closing song. But I want to first do some thanks. First, I want to thank Stephanie Kushner and family for being such great greeters tonight. Thank you all very much. Thank you to Summer Koff, who has been our tech support and is our building supervisor for this evening. I want to thank the Sisterhood of Temple Beth El, who is the sponsor of our Oneg to Go. Please be sure to take a cookie, those large cookies from Just Bakery, before you leave tonight. Again, they are our partners, not only in the Oneg Shabbat, but they are great community partners as they help to rehabilitate people who are coming back into society, need jobs, need a skill, need a trade, and so we are proud to partner with them as part of our Oneg Shabbat. A couple of announcements, please. This is a COVID announcement. First of all, thank you very much for wearing masks in the proper way over your nose and your mouth both. It is very important. Thank you for being vaccinated as well. This is an announcement regarding contact tracing. When you came into the building, you might have, I hope you did, sign our contact tracing sign-in form on the table. If you test positive for COVID-19 within 5 days after being here in person at Temple Beth El, please contact Stephanie Kushner, our executive director, at tbemadison.org, so we can let people know about that. If we receive notification of anyone who was present testing positive within the 5-day period, we will notify those who were present. That's why we ask you to sign in. And so we hope that you, if you haven't signed in yet, we hope that you do so to make sure we know who is here so we could contact you in case we have to provide that service. Things coming up. So tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, there will be Torah study on Zoom for our community. I'm going to be leading that tomorrow morning. Shabbat evening services next Friday evening on Friday, December 31st. I will be gone. Cantor Nami will be officiating with Leslie Koff. So please join us for services again at 6 o'clock in the evening. So please be here with one another as we perhaps give a send-off to the secular year and open the door to a new secular year. Also be informed that next Friday, the 31st of December, the temple office will close at noon because it's on the eve of a holiday. Next Saturday, a week from tomorrow, on January 1st, there will be Torah study at 9 o'clock on Zoom, then led by Steve Olson. If you want more information or to register for these or other programs of Temple, please go to tbemadison.org on the web for more details and registration. Just a few brief announcements, too. We're planning a number of Martin Luther King Day events on the weekend of January 14th to 16th. Also on the 16th, there will be a Tu B'Shvat Seder that we're having online, a virtual one. On January 17th, there are other community-wide Martin Luther King Day observances, and our office will be closed that day in observance of the MLK holiday, Remembrance Day, I should say. So, again, more information on all of that can be found online. Any other announcements that should be made tonight? Okay, then we're good. So for the final song tonight, you have online, there's a link you can turn to our final song, which is The Turning of the World. And you who are here in the sanctuary have a sheet that has the lyrics, and we might even have the lyrics up there. There they are. So you can follow along the lyrics on the screen or on the sheet that you have beside you. We are in the moment, near the turning of the year, of the secular year, and so we too have many thoughts about that. So we join one another. If you don't know the melody, we're going to sing it through 4 times because there are 4 verses, and hopefully you will get that by the time the 4th verse comes along. Let us sing this song for the turning of the world, that we may turn as one. With every voice, with every song, we will move this world along, and our lives will feel the echo of our turning. With every voice, with every song, oh, we will move this world along. With every voice, with every song, we will move this world along, and our lives will feel the echo of our turning. Let us sing this song for the healing of the world, that we may heal as one. With every voice, with every song, we will move this world along, and our lives will feel the echo of our healing. With every voice, with every song, oh, we will move this world along. With every voice, with every song, we will move this world along, as our lives will feel the echo of our healing. Let us sing this song for the loving of the world, that we may love as one. With every voice, with every song, we will move this world along, and our lives will feel the echoes of our loving. With every voice, with every song, oh, we will move this world along. With every voice, with every song, we will move this world along, and our lives will feel the echo of our loving. Let us sing this song for the dreaming of the world, that we may dream as one. With every voice, with every song, we will move this world along, and our lives will feel the echo of our dreaming. With every voice, with every song, oh, we will move this world along. With every voice, with every song, we will move this world along, and our lives will feel the echoes of our dreaming, and our lives will feel the echo of our loving, and our lives will feel the echo of our healing, and our lives will feel the echo of our turning. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz b'te'avon. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Thank you for coming tonight. Shabbat Shalom. Be well, everyone. Hi.